Welcome to Lead Full Circle. Today is a very important topic, the silent enemy of leadership, which is complacency. Have you ever been in a time in your life where you've just been coasting? You're coasting at work, at home, even in your spiritual walk. Have you felt like you've been stuck in a routine at work? With parenting, are you stuck in autopilot and you're not truly connecting with your kids? With your spiritual walk with God, are you skipping devotions? Are you not connected with church or in a small group? Those examples there tie in to what unfortunately happens a lot of times with leaders. We get stuck in a type of mindset where we're coasting, and that allows complacency to creep into our leadership and into our life. But before we begin, I want to remind you of my YouTube channel. Please subscribe, like, and comment if you have not already. Very helpful, a big deal. So again, I would encourage you to do that. Also, my website, leadfullcircle.net, great resources for leaders. So I'm excited about today's lesson. So let's go ahead and jump in and dive in to our leadership topic of the day, the silent enemy of leadership, which is complacency. So complacency quietly undermines leadership. Today, we're going to look at 5 practical ways to fight complacency and true habits you can apply every day to fight complacency that you can start today. You can start this week. Complacency. We cannot allow complacency to quietly undermine our leadership. So let's get started. Leaders don't fail just because of one big mistake. Unfortunately, over time, I think leaders allow complacency. They allow that to kind of creep in and sneak into their life unintentionally. And it's something we have to be very aware of as leaders. And I think something important too that we have to remember as leaders, complacency doesn't just affect you as a leader. If it does start to affect you, then it's going to start affecting the other people around you that you are leading. Complacency, if it sets in with the leader, it's going to set in with others around you. So it's important to be guarded and intentional on how we approach our day-to-day and not allow complacency to set in. We should never get to a point as leaders where we think we know it all. We think we have arrived. We should never have that type of mindset. We have to fight against that every day. We've got to challenge ourselves to never become complacent and never think we're where we need to be. We should always be challenging ourselves to grow and improve as leaders. So again, 5 practical takeaways today we're going to talk about. So let's get started with the first very important takeaway as far as fighting against complacency. So the first point is stay curious and keep learning. We have to continue to learn something every day. We've got to stay curious. And that curiosity should, again, fuel our motivation to grow in some area of our life every day as a leader. I think your growth as a leader will stop if you stop becoming curious. So one thing I heard here recently, it was actually from a Charlie Kirk video that I saw the past few days, and it's really hit me hard. And it sounds like a very simple thought, but I think we overlook this and maybe take this type of mindset for granted and really don't focus on something like this. But one thing he said in a video that I saw, a young teenage girl asked him a question, what's one piece of advice you would give young people? And he said something very simple, but I think it was extremely powerful. He said, learn something new every day. So when you think about that, think about to your previous couple of days. What did you learn new? And man, that has really hit me hard as a leader. I have not done a good job in that. I think I just overlooked that a lot of times. I should learn something new every single day as a leader. What great advice that is. And that could be a lot of different ways. And when I say that, I think about we have to be very intentional in trying to learn something new every day. We can't just go through the flow of life and expect to learn something new. You've got to put yourself in a place, in a position to actually be able to learn something new. So are you reading a book? Are you listening to different podcasts? Are you asking questions to people? Are you reading different articles? What are you doing intentionally to try to learn something new every day? For me, here recently in my office, I've got a board that is like a to-do list almost, Sunday through Saturday. It has a whole week laid out, and I write down kind of my task, my major task for each day. So as I started really reflecting on this episode and reflecting on what I heard from Charlie Kirk, I completely changed that now. That is now for me, a board of how I'm going to intentionally every day try to learn something new. So for every day of the week, I put something under the day of how I'm going to intentionally learn something new. So maybe for Monday, it's listen to this specific podcast. Maybe Tuesday, it's read a certain chapter of a book. So you've got to put things in place where you can intentionally try to learn something new. I think about school, just something that I think is very relevant for me in the school setting. If you're a teacher, even if you're a coach, are you doing the same thing you've been doing for 5, 10, 15, 20 years? Have you changed anything? Are you stuck in that redundant routine of the same lesson, the same worksheets every single year? You've got to try something new. I think for work, I think say we're listening to a podcast. Man, take a principle or a lesson you learn from a podcast and apply it. Try something new at work. When's the last time you tried a new policy, new way of just doing something at work, a new method? Try something new and take it. When you read something, when you listen to something, apply it and use it. Try it. And then at home, I think we have to be careful about. I think this is a good point for parents at home. Instead of us teaching something new to our kids, allow them to come to us each day or each week. Hey, tell us something new you learned this week. So kind of flip the script a little bit and put it on our kids to tell us what they've learned new. Again, just a way to emphasize the importance of always trying to learn something new and grow. So I hope this is good for you as far as a first really practical takeaway to fight complacency. Stay curious and keep learning. Learn something new every single day. Second way to fight complacency is to set fresh goals on a regular basis. So for me, I love routine. I'm a big believer in routine. But however, as I've really studied complacency and how complacency can creep in, unfortunately, routine allows complacency to creep in very easily. So I have to be very careful as a leader not to allow my routines of my day to become redundant and allow complacency to creep into my life. If you do the same thing every day, the same routine every day, how are you challenging yourself? I think you can, again, become very redundant, very complacent, and you're okay with your routine because it's comfortable. But I think we have to look at setting fresh goals so we're not caught up in a certain routine that allows us to become almost bored and just comfortable with the way of life. We have to set goals on a regular basis. I think about working out in the gym. If you do the same workout 2 or 3 months every day, your body, your muscles become used to that, and it's not as effective as if you're changing your workout up every month or so many weeks. You've got to change things up in the gym. Same thing with our leadership principles. We have to change things up so we don't get caught in a routine and become complacent. I think about school. If schools are only focused on test scores, I think that can become a routine, year in, year out focus that can kind of allow complacency to creep in at times because we're only focused on one thing every single year. For us this year, we've really made a focus on attendance. And if we get students to attend more days of school consistently, I think the long-term effect will be better test scores because they're in our building more. So that's one thing we have changed this year and got out of the routine of just focusing on the major goal of test scores. We're breaking it down to where we're really focusing on attendance and trying to encourage kids to be at school more. And we've got things in place to help with that. I think at work, if let's say you meet a certain quota each year, are you stuck in that routine of just, we're trying to do whatever we got to do to meet that quota? Well, what if you start losing customers over time because that's all you're focused on is the quota? How about you focus on customer retention to change the routine mindset that you have every year trying to meet a certain mark? At home, maybe you're stuck in the routine of, hey, you're doing a good job of eating dinner, once, twice, 3 times a week as a family, but maybe you've got the TV on. Maybe you're on your cell phone. I mentioned that a lot. But what if you could change the routine of things and you cut the TV off, you put the cell phone up, just little adjustments to where you're not stuck in the same redundant routine that allows complacency to creep in. I heard something the other day on a different podcast. It said, routine creates predictability. And I think if you are predictable in what you do every day, again, that ties into allowing complacency to easily set in and creep in to your day-to-day life, especially as a leader. So you've got to set those stretch goals that are going to challenge you. I think Sundays for me, I'm going to really start focusing on resetting my focus for the week ahead. What can I do intentionally throughout the week where I'm not predictable, where I'm not stuck in a routine, so I can fight against complacency? So again, I hope this second point's been good for you. Set goals on a regular basis so you can fight against complacency. Now, the third way to fight against complacency, invite accountability. Leaders cannot thrive in isolation. Let me say that again now. Leaders cannot thrive in isolation. We have to have those that hold us accountable. We have to have those around us that hold us accountable, that we don't need people that are always yes people. We need those that challenge us and push us as leaders. I think about at work, who is your group of people you go to that you talk through situations and issues with? For my school, our assistant principals, our counselors, we work very closely together. We meet every week as we talk about the upcoming week, as we talk about situations we're working through, whatever it may be. But I have my group at work that we really work very closely together, and they help hold me accountable. I need their thoughts. I need their ideas. I need their suggestions as we grow together within our school setting. I cannot do it by myself. I have got to work with others, and I've got to invite that accountability piece for me as a leader. Think about you at work. I think everybody needs a mentor. We have to be able to go to somebody or a group that will give us wisdom, will give us advice, will give us knowledge. We can bounce ideas off of. We can't do it by ourselves. So where does that find you at work? And also within your home? You've got to have that relationship with your spouse where they will hold you accountable. You will hold your wife, your husband accountable. They will hold you accountable. And leaders cannot be successful working in isolation. You've got to have a mentor at work. You've got to have that strong, small group around you at work. And at home, you and your spouse have got to have that strong relationship where you can hold each other accountable to meet the values you believe in within your family. The fourth way to fight complacency is to celebrate progress. As leaders, we can't just focus on the finish line. I think if we just focused on the finished product, we will allow the work, the process of completing something go unnoticed, the effort go unnoticed to get to the finish line. And throughout that process, if we don't recognize the effort and the growth along the way, that is when complacency can set in. At school, praise the students who are working hard. They may not have the final grade they want or you want them to have just yet, but if you notice they're working hard, man, praise them. Tell them you're proud of their work ethic. That is a big deal for kids this day and time. Think about your workplace. If a team member is trying something new, recognize that. Tell them you're proud of them from trying something new and taking a leap of faith in something. That's a big deal. If you have team members trying new things at work, new approaches, that is huge. So recognize that. Don't allow those things to go unnoticed. Recognize new processes, new ways of doing things. Really big deal as leaders to make sure we don't overlook those. And then even at your home, with your family, with your kids, if your children are making progress in an area, whatever that may be, whatever that may look like to you within your home, recognize your children for making progress in the area, not just winning a trophy, but what did they do to get to that point? And don't ever overlook that. I think this is very important. Recognition gives people momentum to get to the finish line. If we don't recognize what they're doing, they may lose their energy. They may lose their effort along the way to get to the finish line. So we have got to, as leaders, celebrate progress along the way, and that will fight complacency from setting in. Fifth point to fight complacency: stay close to the mission. We cannot forget why we are leading. Why do you lead the way you do? We can never forget the mission. If we forget the mission, if we forget our true purpose as a leader, there is no doubt that complacency will creep in. You've got to keep your purpose front and center and remind people what your mission is, what your purpose is. And you may not have to say that verbally. That may just be your actions, a reminder to those of your purpose, your true mission as a leader. I think that ties into also celebrate success. Don't ever forget to overlook success throughout the process, or when you do get to the finish line, celebrate it. Make that a big deal. And that should automatically tie into your mission and your purpose and why you're leading the way you are. And then one point I want to make about home with our kids, just something to remember as we focus on our mission at home with our kids. We're not just raising kids, we are raising future adults. So that should tie directly into the values you believe in within your home and your family. And that directly ties into your mission, your purpose for how you raise your kids, because you are raising future adults that will be an extension of you and your family as they go out on their own. So don't ever forget your mission as a leader. If you stay focused on your purpose and why you lead, complacency will have a very difficult time creeping in and sneaking into your life and your values as a leader. So as we close, a couple reminders about complacency. Complacency, remember now, is very quiet, it's very sneaky, but it can be deadly to leadership. And you don't fight complacency with one dramatic push in one area of your life. You fight complacency with small, consistent habits. And it can be those 5 habits that we talked about today. And it is so important to fight against complacency, because when you fight against complacency as a leader, those around you will rise with you. So don't ever take this for granted. Fight against complacency every day. And I hope these 5 habits can really help you as leaders at work, at home, within the community, at church, with your walk with God. So I hope this has been very valuable for you. Apply it. I would encourage you to apply it. It's so important to never forget. Lead well at work, but even better at home. I'll see you next week.